So we're going to now move on to Dr. Emil Kendziorra, who is running Tomorrow Biostasis, absolutely fascinating company, definitely a level 10 when it comes to the levels of longevity. So Emil, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Thank you so much.
Great, we've got your slides over to you.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thanks for inviting me. Yeah, we're switching a bit, I would say, to the moonshot side, as the slide already suggests. Of course, I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have in the end. Maybe to briefly introduce myself first. Yeah, so I'm a doctor by training. Spent a good amount of my time in the past in research, in cancer research, always with longevity. So longevity was always my kind of the thing that I wanted to do. Then got a bit detoured building a few tech companies, but after selling my last two, I'm now back in longevity and doing building Tomorrow Bio. So Tomorrow Bio is a very unique company, as you might see in a second. So this is kind of the company that I always wanted to build, and I finally got around to do that. So who is that for, right? So far we heard about what you can do right now, and while cryopreservation is something that you can do right now, which Tomorrow Bio is offering, it is a bit more on the moonshot side, because as some of you might know, there's this differentiation between, or at least some people say there's a differentiation between health span and lifespan, right? Everybody wants health span, no question there. Everybody wants to be healthy when they're old, right? And no one wants to be sick. Now, there's a subset of people who also say, yeah, but if I'm healthy, then I would like to also live longer, right? Of course, you can imagine that you might be 85, but if you just came back from hiking with your friends last year, right, and the average life expectancy in your country might be whatever, 86, 87, you might not like when a doctor tells you that you have a terminal condition and might die soon. And in fact, a good chunk of the population agrees with that. So around 26, depends on who you ask and how you ask, somewhere between 20 and 30% of population says, yes, given good health, I would like to live indefinitely even, which of course is arguably very long. Now, there's a good amount of drugs and treatments at least coming about that probably will expand health span. So the hope is that everybody here who is in the call and who might have a couple of years, hopefully until they're 85, then hopefully everybody is relatively healthy at 85, right? But extending lifespan, the maximum of time, maximum amount of living time, it's significantly more difficult. And currently, there's exactly zero treatments, zero drugs that have even expanded maximum lifespan by a day. So I would argue that we're not on track. We're not on track to live significantly longer, while we're on track to live healthy or healthier. So what to do about that? Now, as I said, we're very much taking a moonshot approach here. So we do human cryopreservation. The thing that you might know from science fiction movies, right? If you need to fly to another star, you cool down the body with a specific type of procedure, and then however long this travel to the next star might take, let it be, I don't know, 40 years, you wake up without having aged a day. Now, of course, we don't primarily do this for space travel. We do this for people who are diagnosed with terminal conditions right now, right? From my background, so my background is cancer research. Let's take someone who has been diagnosed with terminal cancer, where the doctors tell them, we can take the pain away, but whatever treatment we do, unfortunately, you are going to die. The only question is it 5 months, 6 months, however long, but it's relatively clear that the person is going to die soon, or it is clear. Now, as tough as this sounds, these people have two choices. They can either say, when I die, I want to be cremated or buried, which, depending on your personal worldview, that is it. And of course, I personally believe that is it. Or they can choose cryopreservation. Now, what is cryopreservation? It basically is a two-step procedure. The first step you do now, the second step you do in the future once possible. So it is a procedure where at the time of death, instead, as I said, instead of being cremated or buried, you use extremely low temperatures and cryoprotective agents. So basically solutions that you would perfuse into the body that replaces the blood and the water. against a solution that you cannot freeze. So I know colloquially this topic is always calling freezing, but cryopreservation, in fact, does a lot of things to not have ice crystals form, meaning not freeze anything. It basically preserves the body in a state without ice crystals, without any form of further degradation. And as much as we understand currently, with all the physical basis of memory, identity, personality, and so on. Now, the second part comes in the future. Currently, cryopreservation is not reversible. But assuming that medical technology over the next decades and maybe 100 years or even longer advances, that then at some point, this terminal condition, this cancer, as an example, is curable, rejuvenation is possible, and it might be possible to bring the patient back to life. Is this a guarantee? Absolutely not. But then again, the alternative is cremation and burial. Now, does this actually work? Right? So in humans, as I said, it is currently still part one works. You can cryopreserve people, but you cannot currently resuscitate them. In the lab, in organs, you can very well do that. So these pictures are from one of our research partners, 21st Century Medicine. On the left side here, you see a frozen kidney. It's basically a clump of ice. It doesn't work anymore, has been damaged by the ice crystals a lot, and so on. On the right side, you see a vitrified kidney. Vitrified in this case means it has been cryopreserved by a very similar technology that we use as well. That kidney, once you warm it up from, in this case, negative 140 degrees Celsius, can be transplanted back into an animal. It perfectly works. The animal survives, and so on and so on. In principle, this is the same technology that you use for in vitro fertilization, where you cryopreserve egg cells and then, make them or keep them usable for, well, many, many years. In organs, it works. In small organisms in the lab, it works. In humans, it's still an active research project. But since, again, the alternative would be cremation, it is something that humans currently can decide. So this is not just a story. This is very tangible reality. This is one of our long-term storage facilities in Switzerland. Here you see our underground long-term storage room with these large-scale so-called dewars, where cryopreserved people can be long-term stored, and not only can be, but are, at extremely low temperatures, at least negative 140 degrees, in most cases negative 196 degrees Celsius, for the long term. Just to give you a bit of a visual impression of how all of that looks, this is our research facility. The room that you just saw is here on the back underground for maximum security in a country, as I said, Switzerland, that has a good chance to be, even 50, 100 years from now, to be very stable. Full operation room, CT scanning for quality assurance, and so on and so on. So everything that you need to make these cryopreservation cases happens. And of course, not everybody lives in Switzerland. So we have a lot of mobile teams as well. So these are basically retrofitted, kind of like ambulances. So we buy ambulances, then our medical engineers retrofit them to basically build mobile operating rooms that can do these cryopreservation procedures independently of where the patient might be. And then currently we have 3 of those in Europe, with our headquarters in Berlin and our facility in Zurich, and then more locations coming up. And since recently now in a soft launch also in the US, in New York, in Florida, and in California. And now over the next couple of months, we will add more and more teams both in Europe and in the US to have comprehensive coverage with these ambulances. And of course, we can fly to wherever the patient is as well, if there's a last minute case. So we looked at how this looks in organs. Of course, in organs, as I said, at least in animal organs, it does work. But of course, humans, and especially the brain, is the thing that we are interested in, right? So the part that makes you and that makes me. So just to give you a short visual impression of how how the quality metric, or one of the quality metrics from cryopreserved brains looks like. On the left side here, you see a CT scan in so-called pseudo color. So it's basically color coded all areas that have gotten enough of that cryoprotective agent to not have ice crystals formed are shown in green here. And you can see the whole brain is basically green, apart from some yellow patches. These yellow patches are the ventricles and the dural sinus and so on. So areas that are not filled, there's no brain tissue in there. They're basically fluid-filled areas, meaning no important information is stored there. And last two slides before I'm, of course, happy to answer questions. It wouldn't be an investor conference if we wouldn't also talk about business a bit. So right now, this is an active business, right? So this is on one hand, this is active research, but we offer that service as well. Because of course, if someone gets a terminal condition right now, it doesn't really help them if we say, well, you know, maybe in 10 years, there might be some new treatment around, or there might be some technology around that might save you if they're dying right now. Now, it's basically kind of a subscription business currently with a one-time fee at the time of cryopreservation. So most people who sign up with us, they pay somewhere around 50 euros a month to have a contract with us. Plus, in most cases, they take out life insurance. We have a large life insurance partner where this life insurance policy would then pay out at the time of death to pay for the preservation and the long-term storage. It's a 200,000 euro one-time fee in this case, or 220,000 US dollars. And last but not least, there's a good amount of asset management and long-term wealth preservation attached to it that we're currently setting up. That is another big business, a business stream. So it is pretty good business now. We're close to profitable, now growing quite well, like somewhere between 5 to 10x faster than our next competitor. So it's good business now. And of course, once you can revive a mammal or a human, then it might be the best business ever, right? At that point. I'm not promising any timelines here, quite the opposite, in fact, but that is kind of the long-term kicker. We just crossed 100 million in contract value. So there's now 100 million worth of mostly life insurance contracts out there. I think by now it's already closer to 120 life insurance contract out there that when these people die will pay out to us for the purpose of cryopreservation. So if anybody is interested in kind of these moonshot approaches, I'm more than happy to chat. So feel free to reach out. Even if you're just interested to chat and have questions, I'm always more than happy to talk. So don't hesitate to just, send me an email or reach out on some of the other methods.
Great, Emil, thank you. Wonderful to see that actually you're bagging that revenue trajectory already, right? Which is always fascinating. Back to the science, got a question from Ashish, who's asking about the current progress or plan to enhance revival research for tissues, or obviously going to the complete organism level, even if it's just a small mammal. Two questions, I guess. First of all is, are you actually involved in that as an organization? Yes or no? And I guess the question is what is the state of the science on that at the moment?
Yeah, so we're very actively involved. So we're not just a service provider, we're also an active R&D organization with a multitude of different angles. Our primary focus is on brain, but between organ preservation and brain preservation, it's a lot of problems are overlapping, except for that the brain has the blood-brain barrier, which gives some additional challenges. But by and large, the research is the same. The research, how far we are, so small organs you can preserve, like rat kidneys, kidneys from rabbits, and so on. Larger volumes get more difficult. The reason in cryopreservation is basically a physics problem. What I mean by that is that large volumes, just because the ratio of surface area to volume is not beneficial, it's difficult to warm them up quickly. A thing that you need to do to keep the tissue viable. So One of the reasons why I'm working on this in this space is because usually engineering problems are significantly easier to solve than basic research or any type of research problem. So I'm quite optimistic that down the line there will be some quite promising breakthroughs. Currently, small things work, large things are more difficult.
One last question, really, for you, Emil, before we jump into the other questions, which is, does the subscription that you've got also cover life insurance, or are there additional fees as part of that? So maybe just talk us through the model if you can, just while we prepare the other questions.
Sure. So there's basically it's two things. So on one hand, it's 50 euros or 55 US dollars as a monthly subscription once you sign up. And then at the time of death, we need a one-time fee of 200,000. Now, how you pay these 200,000, right? Definitely don't wire them to us. Like, we would need to put it in a truster account and so on. So we just need to make sure that we have it at the time of death, right? So life insurance would be in addition to these 50 euros or 55 US dollars. And now life insurance costs, of course, depend on how old you are and so on, right? It's a flexible pricing scheme. You can also do a payable on death account. Some of our customers have trusts and so on. So a variety of different payment methods work. Life insurance usually is the easiest to start with. And for that, we have a large partner where it's relatively easy to sign up, no matter where you are. So we can provide life insurance contracts in every country in the world.